Benjamin Dibble. Very, very strong pace by this pair. Question is, who would be the strongest of all? Well, usually the lightest, but that's not always the case. They were wrestling each other, or would certainly have to do so by the end, with just under 4 kilometres to go. The finish line starting to beckon. Well, with these uphill drags really taking an impact, and those who just couldn't keep the pace, like Sam Calverwell, just tagged. And a big push here. Nice drive. Benjamin Dibble reaching out for glory and just unable to respond. Marcus Garcia staying planted and just watching his man, his nemesis, go away. Well, Dibble doing a fantastic job of keeping himself lively and busy. Marcus Garcia was to just fade a little bit, I'm afraid. Just over 2 kilometres from the line, and after a long day, nearly 3 hours in the saddle, this would have been a welcome sight indeed to the man who was to take the day. Benjamin Dibble sailing around all of the corners, owning them, you might say, never looking back. And it was to be quite a margin out there, so much so that Dibble was heading to the lead of this race. 10 bonus seconds and a margin over the chasers Garcia and Sam Calverwell, who managed to get himself back into the frame. And it was a group led by Ray Crader that were going to be trying to pick up the crumbs from the top table. As for Dibble, though, he owned the day, and now he owns the leader's jersey as well. Well, Dibble only 1,500 metres from the line at this point, and giving himself the opportunity to look behind. He knew as well, though, that every second may count deeper into this race. Obviously, the most peaks are today, but if you can gain time, then it was well worth holding on to ahead of the stages still to come. 5 stages in this race, don't forget. This is only stage 2, and so if you can pick up a bit of a margin, it's definitely worth bidding for. Benjamin Dibble was doing precisely that. Well, his days in the Tour of Langkawi a couple of years ago, a 33-year-old Australian, he functions very well in this part of the world. Tour of Japan as well went his way, we remind you, 4 years ago, but he still got plenty to offer and was doing a fantastic job of it. Underneath the Flamme Rouge, and just able to pick his lines through all of the twists and curves that were out there. The question was, who would make up the podium? And it was still that trio breakaway that were to duke it out. Sam Calverwell had drifted back onto the wheel of Marcus Garcia. So as Benjamin Dibble was just heading to the line, taking a trackies look underneath his arm here, didn't want to put his head into the wind by sitting up and turning around. And this must have been a joyous sight for him. Bringing it all back home. 400 metres from the line. The crowd's awaiting him and the cheers ringing in his ears. But what would be the margin? That was the big question between himself and the chasers. How emphatic, basically, would this win be? In the end, the margin was to be a handsome one, 40 seconds clear of the chase. Beautifully marshalled this race, the Tour de Taiwan, and a great leader they've got in Benjamin Dibble. Came home, couldn't resist raising his arms, and why not? Job well done, the clock started to count. Well, as we said, there'd been a reassembly behind him, just coming to the line. Sam Calverwell had got back on. The bigger man of the pair was always going to be the favourite in the sprint. Great battle, though, with Garcia, who came around him, but just served as a lead out. And on the final bend, on the throw, Sam Calverwell taking it. Garcia in third place, and then a long wait of more than a minute before the rest of the field came in. Ray Crader was in very determined mood and just broke off the nose of the chasing group at the very last. Great cornering ability, good acceleration out of it as well. And so he wanted to make sure that his margin was a decent one as well. They themselves coming to the line. Ray Crader it was that crossed at the front of this group, ahead of Sin Bayar, who'd done such a good job in the early part of this race. Modest margin, indeed he got himself a 2-second advantage, did Ray Crader. Everything worth battling for, as we mentioned. Sin Bayar and Regigi coming home afterwards.
I was lucky that a few other teams made it hard right from the bottom, and I sort of just followed wheels, but then when they sort of started looking at each other, that's when I started attacking, and eventually 3 of us got away and we sort of worked well, but I could tell on the last 5 kilometres that they were starting to struggle a bit, and that's when I attacked and got rid of one, and then we worked for a bit, and then I attacked again, and I think it was the last maybe 3.5 kilometres, I was way by myself, but yeah, the final climb was a bit harder than what I was expecting, just looking at the profile, so the last 2 kilometres surprised me a bit, but yeah, it was a good stage.
Benjamin Dibble taking the day, and of course, in so doing, the leader's jersey as well. This is how we finished stage 2, the Taiwan city. Benjamin Dibble ahead of Sam Culverwell. Garcia Fernandez in third place ahead of Crader, Sin Bayar, Regigi, Lamperti, Lavas, Yellowat, and Jeroen Myers. Yellow jersey, never been more deserved. Benjamin Dibble holds it. And indeed he leads by 35 seconds from Sam Culverwell, who's had a couple of good days racing for Trinity Racing. Marcos Garcia Fernandez, 46 seconds in arrears, and then we spin out to more than a minute before Chang Kai Feng, who is the leading Asian rider for the Chinese Taipei cycling team.